When it comes to video games, there are two aspects that are often discussed and debated among gamers and critics alike: the story and the gameplay. Both elements are essential for a game's success, but the question of which one is more important is subjective and can vary depending on the player's preferences. On one hand, the story is what drives the game's narrative and can make the player invested in the game's world and characters. A well-written story can provide emotional depth and meaning to the gameplay, making it more engaging and memorable. A good story can also create a sense of purpose and direction for the player, giving them a reason to continue playing, to continue progressing through the game with an eventual end goal in mind. Now, on the other hand, gameplay is the heartbeat of the game, and it determines the level of enjoyment and satisfaction that the player ultimately experiences. Good gameplay mechanics can make the game fun, challenging, and also rewarding, keeping the player engaged and motivated to keep playing. And in many cases, a game's replayability and longevity very much depends on its gameplay, as it can be the driving force behind the player's desire to return to the game. Now, while both elements are crucial to a game's success, it's important to note that not all games need to excel in both areas. Some games may prioritize the story, dealing a more narrative-driven experience that immerses the player in a captivating world, and others may focus solely on gameplay, providing a fun and engaging experience that keeps the player coming back for more. Ultimately, the importance of the story and gameplay depends on the individual player's preferences, like I mentioned before. Some players may value a game's story more, while others may prioritize gameplay. However, a balance between the two, in my opinion, is what can create a truly immersive and satisfying gaming experience. And the reason why I bring this up is because recently there was a debate going on about, story versus gameplay versus graphics. Like, how would you rank these items in terms of importance? And, seeing that post, I thought to myself, I really just sat down and thought to myself, you know what? Let me just make a video about this. I might as well, use this to put my thoughts out there and see where I personally, truly stand in this debate. And having said all that, in the video, for me, I still think I would put story in first place. Personally, again, this is my personal preference, so let me know how you guys would rank this in your own words in the comments below. For me, I'm a sucker for a good story, as you guys have seen with the games that I play on the channel. Even though I play a lot of different games, the ones that truly, get to my heart, the ones that truly make me feel like I always laugh about shedding a thug tear, the ones that fully put me in my emotional bag, it's always the ones with the best stories. And it's often like a painful, engaging story. Hence, games like The Last of Us have made me feel things that I've never, felt for a game before. Likewise, Red Dead Redemption franchise. That Arthur Morgan story, the John Marston story, Jesus, that shit had me in a chokehold. and I think what then ultimately paired everything together was the great gameplay that those games had to accompany the said story. So, like I mentioned at the beginning of this video, I think the best games are the ones that are able to find that perfect balance, the perfect storm, the perfect chaos. But as in my own preference, I would say the story, so the storytelling and the narrative takes first place. I would say second place is the gameplay, because you have to also be able to keep me engaged in the gameplay. And then I would put graphics in third place, because while I'm a sucker for beautiful graphics, it's not really a requirement that I would say. So it adds a layer of enjoyment to the game when everything looks so photorealistic and everything, but it's not really a requirement. As we've seen, there's games that have been able to tell amazing stories and have some of the worst graphics that you've ever seen in this life, because of course, you know, as the console generations were getting better and better, the graphics were also getting better and better. But I do always find it difficult to enjoy a game where it's just purely like visually stunning, but then everything else is just shallow. So these empty open worlds, again, I'm gonna take this to take a shot at Ubisoft, where it's like an open, empty, lifeless world, but it looks visually stunning. But there's like nothing to do in the world. The gameplay is repetitive. There's no depth to the story. That's when you fall into that pit of nothingness with the open, empty worlds. But when you're able to just catch that lightning in a bottle and be able to keep the player engaged and invested to the point that where, like I was saying, I shed thug tears for Arthur Morgan, I shed thug tears for Joel. Like, the story had me so engaged, but at the same time the gameplay just wouldn't make me put the game down. So games that are able to find that perfect blend for me are the ones that ultimately win the debate. Whereas some games, it's better for them to just have really good gameplay that'll keep you coming back, because that's what they want. They're not really trying to tell a story. And then some games as well, where they're just purely trying to tell a story, they don't really care about, you know, the gameplay being repetitive or boring or whatever. So they sort of lean that way a little more. But I sort of look at it like a pendulum ultimately. But yeah, in conclusion, the debate between story and gameplay will always continue to be a topic of discussion in the gaming community. I think all of these elements are essential for a game's success, and I think the importance that you place on it will ultimately depend on the individual player's preferences. Whether a game excels in one area or multiple areas, the most important thing ultimately is that it provides an enjoyable and memorable experience for the players. I hope you guys enjoyed this little mini video discussion. I will be dropping more of these. Trying to get the channel back alive again a little bit, because I've been neglecting my channel in terms of like the actual video essays and discussions. But you would have noticed I've been putting up things like This Week in PlayStation, where we'll discuss the news of the week. My video essays will also be coming up. And then also I'm just going to be doing videos like this, where it's just like a little discussion where you guys can let me know in the comments. Let me know your thoughts on the topic, and we can have, you know, a little back and forth. Also see where everyone else in the community stands. But as always, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope you're having a dope ass day wherever you are in the world. Stay blessed, stay healthy, stay dangerous. Peace out. Video essays and stuff, but in the meantime right now, my monitor, because I'm used to my camera being on my monitor, but I moved the camera.
Stop right there! Okay. It was not. This is your fault. This is nobody's fault, Henry.
If you're really like into some nature shit, on weekends you can always